What's up and welcome to CFB Saturdays. Today I'm going to be ranking every single logo in the Big 10. I've done the same thing with the ACC and the SEC. In my last video with the SEC, it did really well compared to a lot of other videos on this channel, so I really appreciate everyone who watched it, who liked it, commented, all that. It meant a whole lot to me, so I'm going to continue to try to put out great videos for you guys and videos like this. So just super appreciate it. Anyways, before we get into it, just sit back, relax, like, comment, subscribe. Let's go ahead and get right in. Starting at number 18 with Purdue. And this may be my least favorite logo in all of college football. Definitely my least favorite in a power conference. First off, it follows a color scheme that if you've watched my last videos, you know that I hate. The black and the weird gold just does not work for me at all. Super bland, super uninteresting. I do appreciate at least that they lightened the gold a little bit more from to like a tan gold. They used to have a really dark gold that I hated, but this is a little bit better, I guess. And on top of that, the design of the P just has very odd proportions. It's smushed and short and fat. The stem of the P is very small, and it just looks so unbalanced. They tried to make the base serif look really strong, but it feels very heavy to the right, and like the base, wouldn't really be able to carry that much weight that it has on the right side. So it just feels like it would topple over. It should be toppled over. And the logo also is weirdly italicized. It's just a really stubby logo. I just feel like they have done so much more with the train motif with their alternate logos that I think is so much better. But this logo with the pudgy P with uninteresting colors just does not work for me at all, especially when I know they have some much better alternate logos. So it's a no for me. At number 17, I have Washington, which might be a hot take. Single letter logos are a bit of a theme in the Big Ten, and this is just one of the many. I know a lot of people are very fond of this logo, but obviously I'm not. Part of it comes down to the more subjective personal preference, which is the color scheme. A lot of people love this purple and gold, but to me, it just feels pretty flat. It is fairly unique, but I just don't find these colors to complement each other very well. I love the color purple. It's one of my favorite colors of all time, but I think that the gold takes away from how bold this logo would have been. And most of my issues come from the specific design elements it has. It is technically proportional and balanced, but in a way it just feels really awkward. The left third of the logo is extra wide and the right side is extra thin. In the middle is kind of a bit of both. So it goes wide, thin, and it's just really clunky and awkward to me, and it makes the logo feel wildly disproportionate and unbalanced when looking at a specific section of this logo. So when you look at it as a whole, it's like, okay, it's great, but when you really look in there, it just feels really weird in each section. The serifs at the top are different lengths, and all the stems are off. I just don't like it. And along with all of those flaws, it also is very nondescript, and there's nothing to tie it to a mascot or a location, which I love when logos do those things, and this one just doesn't. So it's yet another logo that does not tell me much about anything about the actual team that it's representing. At number 16, I have the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. And again, another block letter, of course. Like I said before, red and black almost always goes together. This is no different. That's why it's above the other two logos. The color scheme is great, but at the end of the day, there is not much design to this logo. It's literally just a block R. Sure, it feels very collegiate, very bold, strong, but it tells me nothing about the team. It just feels lazy. Plus, once again, proportions are a bit odd here. It feels pretty wide, and the serifs don't seem to match. The serif on the right stem feels wider or longer even. Though it does have the same height-wise, it's the same height-wise, but still feels a little off there. The logo does not feel like a football logo. It feels generic, and it could be slapped on pretty much anything. And for a school whose mascot is as cool as a Scarlet Knight, that's just very disappointing to me. So anyways, moving on. At number 15, I have Maryland. And this logo is also a plain letter logo, but it's a bit more interesting. For starters, it is a bit more descriptive, tells me more about the team, despite getting rid of the super cool terrapin mascot that used to be part of the logo. But that's besides the point. We're not talking about the past logo. We're talking about this one. And it does at least incorporate the state flag still in the underline to that M. And the Maryland flag is super unique, so it creates a really interesting pattern there. Unfortunately, it's a lot of detail in such a small banner that the details really get lost when the logo is smaller, like on uniforms. Additionally, the logo just feels super busy. I know the color scheme is supposed to represent that Maryland flag, but it's just too busy. Specifically with the bright yellow highlighter color, it's difficult to put red and yellow together and get a good logo, in my opinion. It kind of looks like McDonald's, and it does not come off strong or intimidating or anything like that. The black outline does help a bit, but still, it's not easy on the eyes at all. I really have no issues with the design of the M itself. It is a bit more unique than other block letter logos. Instead of those normal serifs, they use like these angular flares on the points of the letters, which I actually think is really interesting. It does feel much more satisfying and balanced and proportional than something like the Washington logo. Very symmetrical. So it does have that going for it, at least. Moving on to number 14, I have Northwestern. It's another single letter logo, who would have guessed it, but this time it's a bit more interesting than your average block letter logo. Instead, the Northwestern logo is a bit more stylized. It takes a more traditional and classic collegiate style and modernizes it to a more sleek and academic look. I do love that it is monochrome, which is just that rich purple. Like I said, I do love the color purple, especially when it's standing on its own like this. I just love that shade as well, so that definitely helps. Overall, though, this is a very balanced logo, both in composition and in weight. It's not super busy. It's recognizable, very clean. But my main complaint about it is that it's not very strong. It feels smaller. It's got a lack of boldness. It's just skinny, especially on the sides, and that just does not intimidate to me. Plus, again, the logo is very nondescript. And while the logo itself isn't busy or anything like that, the design stretches the boundaries of what an N should look like. I wouldn't say it's illegible because it does read like an N if you know what it's supposed to be going for, but at the same time, it almost looks like its own shape if you go in blindly. It's just a very unique typeface, which is to its benefit and also its downfall. Moving on, at number 13, I have Nebraska. Now, this is a very traditional collegiate block letter logo with just an extra outline. It's kind of cool having a logo right next to the Northwestern logo because they are such different takes on a logo that uses the same letter. This one is much bolder, much more intimidating, and it reads very clearly, but it sacrifices stylization and does not hold the same academic sleekness that Northwestern has. It does, however, still carry proper balance and weight. The structure of the N just makes for a good block letter logo. As for the color, vibrant red with the outline is very, very strong for me. So sure, it is just a generic collegiate logo, but I'm pretty fond of it. Plus, it is very iconic and recognizable, which is what you want out of your logo. At number 12, I have Minnesota. This logo is a bit harder for me to place because while I think the structure of an N lends itself really well to a block letter format, the letter M does not. So Minnesota took a bit of a different approach here, and I have a love-hate relationship with it. I'm not a fan of how wide the logo is or how pronounced the serifs are, especially at the point of the middle part of that M. It just feels weird for there to be a serif there. It just feels a bit weird for there to be a serif there, and with all the serifs in this logo, it ends up feeling a bit clunky and awkward. I know that the amount of serifs has a specific meaning, but from a design perspective, it's just not my favorite. And like I said about the Northwestern logo, it almost creates its own shape rather than looking like a clear M. On the bright side, though, I can appreciate the uniqueness of the design, and I do like the contrast of the colors. Unlike Maryland, the application of red and yellow actually does work together really nicely because it's a bit of a deeper red and the yellow is less vibrant. Also, I'm not really sure if this was intended, but there is a downward arrow in the negative space of the M, so if anyone knows if that's intentional and what it means, please let me know. I would love to know. But overall, even if I think this logo is awkward, clunky, and has design flaws, I still really like how unique it is and interesting it is for a letter logo. It looks super cool on a sweatshirt. It's very collegiate, and it's overall just a very fun logo. At number 11, I have Illinois. Back to the classic block letter logos here with Illinois. They just keep coming. I like this one more than the others, mainly because I think the structure of the eye makes for a very strong logo design, and I really like the color scheme here. I think the navy blue contrasts so well with that shade of red and orange, and it's just such a bold logo. It really stands out as all the other things that the block logos have. Is collegiate, it's strong, has good weight, all that good stuff, but still, it's still kind of boring. But more aesthetically pleasing than some logos we've talked about before. There are no design flaws to point out, at least for me, but there's also nothing super interesting, just a very middle-of-the-road logo. At number 10, we have USC. And ladies and gentlemen, we have evolved from single block letter logos to interlocking block letter logos. And this one is actually one of the most iconic interlocking logos in the sport. And what really works to me about this logo is how well the S and the C actually interlock. The structure of those letters work super well together and just fit really, really well. They just loop right through each other and overlap perfectly. As for the colors, it does fall into my McDonald's comparison. However, it's a lot less offensive to the eyes since, again, the yellow does not look like a highlighter. And it's such an iconic logo and brand. It's strong, it's clean, very balanced. It is a satisfying logo that looks collegiate and traditional, but also super clean. It's pretty timeless as well, but at the end of the day, it is still just letters, which I'm not a huge fan of, and the Big Ten has a lot of. At number 9, I'm going to catch a lot of heat, but I have Ohio State. And for their credit, the logo is a lot more unique than the block letter logos we've been talking about. They actually incorporate the word mark inside the block letter. It's super recognizable, definitely unique, so I'll give them credit there, but it doesn't do a whole lot for me overall. First off, the emphasized letters are O, S, and E, which makes it seem like the acronym for the school, which it almost is, it's just missing one letter, or one letter off, I guess. It makes sense for the O and the S to be emphasized, Ohio State, and I understand the E has to be emphasized for the balance of the logo, but functionally it just does not work. It should be OSU, Ohio State University. But I do like that the S does fill that negative space in the O. It also kind of bothers me that the background letter is an O and the word mark has the O in it as well. So it's a big O and then Ohio State in there. So I don't know if that makes sense. Just feels unnecessary for there to be two O's in the logo and both being emphasizing the first letter of the school. I have no idea if that made any sense to you guys, but it makes sense up here. And I would say it's all that matters, but it kind of does matter how you guys interpret it, but don't pay attention. Anyways, additionally, I'm not a huge fan of the addition of the gray color scheme. Or the addition of gray to the color scheme. The red and black work really well together as usual, but the gray just takes away from it, or I guess whatever version of gray they like to call it. Usually when logos try to incorporate more than two colors, I'm just not a big fan of that, and this is no different. So it's still a unique and interesting logo that is super iconic, but it is not without its flaws, at least in my eyes. It's very possible that my extreme distaste for the school that wears the logo has something to do with my natural disliking of their logo, but I'm not going to ignore my bias there, but I think that even when trying to take that out of the equation, it would still be around this spot in my eyes. Plus, I wish they found a way to include the Buckeye like they had in the past, but they took it out, and it's gone forever. Hopefully not forever. Maybe they'll bring it back. Ohio State, bring it back. That'd be kind of cool. At number 8, we have Oregon. And like I've mentioned in this video, we see a lot of single-letter logos in college football, especially in the Big Ten. But the letter O is often not used, and it's probably better that way since they would have to compete with the Oregon O. Sure, at the end of the day, it is a single letter logo, but it is incredibly well done and incredibly iconic. I love the way that it's wider on the sides and thinner at the top and bottom to give it some flair. It's a typeface that nobody else uses, very specific to the Oregon and their look. It fits well with their branding. It's clean, simple, sleek, it's modern, and it is all one color, which makes it way more versatile. It can work in any size or color without sacrificing what makes it work. I do love their colors, so I love it in both yellow and green format, and it looks especially good on merchandise. I can't put it much higher because it is just an O. As much as I do like this logo, though, I think some of their older logos are even better, so it's still kind of sad to see those logos go, especially that Donald Duck logo. I love that logo on their throwback uniforms. It's great. Anyways, moving on, at number 7, I have Indiana. And this is this year's national champions, the Indiana Hoosiers. Much like the team, the logo has gone pretty under the radar for a long time, but with a team winning their very first national championship in historic fashion, the logo gained a little bit of iconicness out of that as well, a little bit of clout there, which makes sense because a lot more people were looking at the logo throughout the season than they normally are, and I think that's a really solid logo. Sure, the proportions are way off with the I being super long, and there isn't really any relief to separate the I and the U, which makes this logo look a lot more like a shape than overlapping letters, but I think that oddly kind of works for this logo because the shape that it ends up making is actually very interesting to me. It almost looks like a trident or a pitchfork, which, in fact, until a few years ago, I thought that's exactly what it was. I didn't even realize that it was letters, but I also wasn't paying much attention to the program because Coach Sig wasn't there and they were not doing very well at the time. If the trident was more connected to their mascot or branding, the logo would probably be even higher, but since it seems to be more unintentional, I can't justify putting it higher. So it is still a really strong and clean logo in my opinion. The vibrant red definitely stands out. And I like that there aren't other colors that interfere to make it more busy. It's very versatile, like I've said with a lot of other logos that have one color. I also like that the I sticks out further than the ends of the U, making it more emphasized. It's a well-balanced logo that I think does a great job of executing the monogram style while making it feel more interesting than your traditional monogram logo. To some, the fact that it reads more like a shape may be a drawback, and that is totally fair. Everyone's got their own opinion, but I think it makes it a lot better in this case. At number 6, I have Wisconsin. And the Wisconsin W is probably one of the most used logos I've ever seen. Heck, even my childhood wrestling team used it, the West Side Wizards, shout out. It's an iconic logo that really stands out, so it's not hard to see why. It's a unique typeface that creates a more stylized look to a single letter logo. I like the motion created by the curve at the bottom of the W, and I especially like the use of negative space within the W. It looks like they have these downward facing spears in those negative spaces, and I am not in love with the drop shadow that it has, to be honest. I think the logo would probably be better without it, but still looks really cool. The serifs at the top are also very oddly shaped and imbalanced in order to follow that curve that the bottom creates, but again, still a very strong logo, very iconic, recognizable, unique. I know I said it's super common, but it isn't common within college football. It's just common for youth teams and high school teams that copy it. And mimicry is the highest form of flattery, they say, so very solid for a single letter logo. At number 5, we have the Michigan Wolverines, the king of single letter logos, and in my opinion, the most iconic. Design-wise, it is just a block M, but it is hard to find a logo that is more iconic. We talked about Minnesota and how hard it is to do a block letter logo with the letter M, how it doesn't lend itself to block letter logos. Part of that is because you're going to be competing with Michigan. You cannot be in that same space. I know Missouri tries to do it. They have a block M that looks very similar to Michigan, but it just looks like they're copying Michigan. This is the M in the sport. So if you want to do a M block letter logo, you have to be completely different, which is what Minnesota does. Anyways, I can talk about design elements all day long, but the mark of a good logo is consistency, timelessness, and recognizability. And this logo is all of those things. This logo is over 100 years old, and the only thing that's changed is the shade of yellow. It's bold, it's intimidating, it just works. I love the vibrant yellow. It really stands out. I love how thick the stroke is. It just feels very imposing. It's balanced, it's proportional, and once again, with it being all one color, or mostly all one color, sometimes there's a blue outline around it, but the modern primary version is one color. It's very versatile. It looks great on merchandise and really anything. It's a classic logo that just hasn't needed any adjustments because how good it actually is, and I respect it for that. Don't fix what's broken, and the logo is far from broken. And I'm recording this the night, actually, that Michigan is playing UConn in the national championship in basketball, so they might be basketball champions this year by the time you watch this video. We'll see. I hope they are because they have them in March Madness, and that'd be good for me. So we'll see. Anyways, number 4, I have Penn State. It took all the way to the 4th spot on this video to get a logo that actually incorporates the mascot within the logo. Is it really that hard to do, guys? Because every other conference does not have this issue. It's just the Big 10 that has this many logos without the mascot in it. But anyways, Penn State is very unique because of that. It takes a silhouette approach with impressively few lines and details, and yet it's very legible and clear. And interestingly enough, all the lines it does have create a line within the negative space. It very much looks like what it's supposed to look like, and being able to get that look with so few details means this logo can work no matter what the scale. It also, I also really like how intimidating the lion looks without being super angry. It achieves intimidation in a more subtle and powerful way. It looks patient and serious, like it's on the prowl hunting for some prey. As for the oval shape surrounding the logo, I think it works in this instance, allowing us to imply the lion's body within the abstract oval. It works as more of like a badge-like logo, like I've talked about in the past. These oval logos, this Missouri, Georgia, that oval, like even Florida. It makes it like look very much like a badge you'd put on or a patch you'd put on a uniform, which works really well for college uniforms and college logos. And the line work does give the logo more motion, especially in the swoop that creates the lion's neck area. As for the colors, Penn State's blue is a bit darker than I would like, but I do think it fits their brand and this logo super well, so I'm going to let it slide. The only real downside to this logo, to me, is the thick lines coming out of the eyes. It almost looks like the lion is crying. Plus, the logo can feel a bit corporate rather than being athletic, but outside of that, it's a fantastic logo. At number 3, we have UCLA, and I've said it before, I love a good script logo, and UCLA is one of my favorites, and it's paired with one of my favorite color schemes in college football. I wish they still incorporated that gold outline, but I understand the decision to remove it in favor of a more versatile monochrome logo, and the baby blue is still so awesome. Still, I really like the design of this logo. Sometimes with these cursive logos, they can have legibility concerns, especially at smaller sizes, but this, I think, is very clean, very legible. I love how it flows, too, with a very unique typeface that includes curls like at the left tip of the U and the top of the C. I think that flair adds a lot of personality. I love how the U stands out at the front but doesn't dominate or feel disproportionate. It's a very, I think, iconic looking U at the beginning. It's very visually appealing, and I think it looks great on merchandise and on the helmet. It's a beautiful logo. It's a classic traditional script logo, but it does modernize it to look a little more sleek and clean. It's the best of both worlds, in my opinion. And at number 2, we have another logo that actually incorporates the mascot, and I love it, Iowa. First off, black and yellow is a color combo that almost always works, especially this shade of yellow. It just stands out so well. It really pops. And like the past few logos, it's monochrome, so it's super versatile and works in a variety of different colors. And sometimes, like I said, with Michigan, it does a similar thing where there is a yellow outline on the logo sometimes, but that works super well as well. As for the design itself, it's very similar to the Penn State logo in the sense that it is very simple. It's got a silhouette that manages to very clearly depict the image it's going for. It's super unique. It's distinct. It's iconic. I've never seen a bird logo that looks quite like it. It's incredibly strong and fierce, even more so on the side of their helmets. The contrast is so good, and unlike some other teams, their current logo is the best one they've ever had. And they've had that same logo since the 70s. It's just super timeless. It's great. I love this logo. And at the number 1 spot, the best logo in the Big 10 goes to Michigan State. Another logo that incorporates the mascot. Go figure. And it has the added benefit of having a mascot that I think is just super, super cool. So while the Iowa logo may be better technically, I prefer this one because I'm a huge fan of the Spartan motif. Sure, it may look similar to a certain condom brand, but that's besides the point. The logo is super sharp and clean, and of course versatile due to its monochrome nature. I love the color. Not many other schools have used this shade of green. They pretty much have the monopoly on that shade of green, and it just looks awesome. It's another silhouette logo that does not have too many lines or details, but it doesn't need to because it can clearly depict the image it's going for. I love the crest, how it flows, how it juxtaposes with the sharp edges of the logo. It is, of course, very intimidating, a very strong logo. The motif of the Spartan is just badass, and it, of course, works for college football. So that's my ranking of every logo in the Big 10 from worst to best. Please let me know how I did. Let me know your favorite Big 10 logo, your least favorite Big 10 logo, where I messed up, where I got things right. Whatever you want to tell me, let me know in the comments. I try to respond to every single comment I get, so it'd be much appreciated. Anyways, love you guys. See you in the next video. Peace.